Hi everyone, this is Master Matt, and today I'm going to be taking you through 5 different kicking combination ideas that you can use in sparring. This video is going to be geared towards kids, so I'm going to keep the combinations pretty simple, but I encourage you to watch this and see if you can't come up with your own ideas from it. I'm going to be using a bag because I've been requested to make a video with a bag, but you don't need this. You can do it in the air, or if you have somebody else that can hold a slammer or a similar object, that would work just fine. It's just the bag helps us to visualize an object and see where it is and feel the techniques bounce off of the target. And again, the theme here is going to be combinations, which means multiple kicks. I always preach to my students that combinations are important in sparring because the technique that lands is almost never the first one that you throw. So you need to use different things to make yourself unpredictable, and these combinations are just fun to do. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first kicking combination is going to just be 2 roundhouse kicks. We're going to do one on each side of the body. The first one is really going to serve as a decoy to take our opponent's attention away from where we're actually trying to kick them. So we're going to start in our fighting stance. Now you have to be aware of your zones. If I'm too far away for them to kick me, then that means I'm also too far away for me to kick them. So you have to be aware, depending on what you're trying to do, where you need to be in terms of where your opponent is. So for this technique, we're going to assume we're already in range to kick. And the first kick we're just going to throw is from the front leg, a quick roundhouse kick, which sometimes that's enough to score a point. But sometimes the opponent's going to block this, and they're going to favor that side of the body. And what we have to do is recover quickly, and we're going to pop into the other side of the body. Now, there's different ways you can do this. If you're fast enough, you can throw the kick, drop to the ground just to give yourself the extra push to throw the second kick. But that does take longer than just coming from the first kick, jumping into the second kick. But you can experiment with this. You can start from a farther range and slide in, pop the first kick because they're going to be expecting that kick, and then immediately jump and try to throw the other kick to the opposite side of the body. This kind of mirrors in kickboxing the jab to cross technique. The jab is kind of just used as the decoy, and then the cross punch is the power punch that you're going to actually try and land. So practice this on both sides. But the keys here is just making sure that we're being able to twist our hips enough to get the second kick across, and we're not just swinging our leg to the side of the target. So this is a good exercise for our hips in practicing our roundhouse kicks. The second combination is going to be what we call a check kick, followed by an inverted front snap kick. So from our fighting stance, we're going to start with the check kick, which is just where we lift our knee as if we're going to kick the opponent to kind of gauge what they're going to do. Sometimes the opponent moves back, sometimes they prepare to block, or sometimes they advance in to perform a counterattack. But we're just using this as a decoy so that we can move in and pop the inverted front snap kick where we turn our knee and hit with the top of the foot to the opposite side. Now I really like the inverted front snap kick because if my opponent is facing the same direction as me, if we're in this open position. If I try to do a roundhouse kick from my front foot, which is a very common thing to do, I'd be hitting the back side of my opponent. So what I can do is twist my knee so that I can still use the front leg instead of having to turn to hit the front side of my opponent and slide in real quick with that inverted kick. So we want to kind of time this to where we're popping up, bouncing, and then throwing that kick right after. So I'm up and in. And the more you spar with other people, the more you get used to your own timing, and you also understand the tendencies of your opponents, the things that most commonly people do. So you'll get used to knowing when it's best and when you see what the opponent does and where they move for you to pop that second technique. The third combination is very common in sparring, and that's going to be the hook kick, roundhouse kick with our front leg. So again, we're going to start from our fighting stance, and we're just going to lift our front leg as if we're going to do a hook kick to the side of the head or the side of the body. And we're going to assume either the opponent moves back, or we just miss, or we get blocked by that. And we're going to immediately turn that into a roundhouse kick to the opposite side of the body. So it's just a quick change of direction with the same leg that we're throwing inside and back out. Again, like the first technique, you can practice this by dropping your foot to give yourself extra bounce and power in that technique. But if you're adept enough, it's faster to just pop in and out with the technique. You really don't have to go full force with each one. The first one can be a decoy where you just are sizing up your opponent and then throwing that second technique in afterwards. The fourth technique is going to be a crescent kick followed by a turn back kick with the opposite leg. So you're kind of seeing a pattern here of using the first technique as a decoy followed by the technique we're actually trying to score with. So again, this time I'm going to use my back leg, a crescent kick. Now you can use a crescent kick to the side of the head sometimes as a technique, but really that's not our plan here. Either we're trying to create distance if our opponent is too close to us. If we lift our leg, that should be enough to set them back a little bit, and then I can step and turn my body into that turn back kick. Or if we have a lot of distance already between us and our opponent, we can throw that first kick knowing that it's not going to get anywhere close, and by turning our body like this, sometimes that attracts your opponent to move in, and that can be a quick indicator for us to turn into that back kick, which can score an easy point. But this is going to be a power kick where we use that momentum generated by the turning of the body with the crescent kick that throws into that back kick here. One thing to note with the turning techniques is you never want to have your back turned for an extended period of time to your opponent, because that leaves at least the back of our head open and we can't see what's going on to block whatever's coming to us. So it's important that we generate that momentum and keep our head locked on our opponent for the majority of the time as much as we can to avoid getting hit in the back of the head without us knowing. Our final combination is going to be 2 roundhouse kicks followed by a turn back kick. So up to this point, we've been doing 2 technique combinations. So just as important as it is to use combinations in sparring, if you're only doing 2 techniques each time, that in itself becomes predictable. So what we're going to be doing here is adding a third. So we're imagining like our opponent may be getting used to us using 2 techniques and trying to land that second one every time. So what we're going to be doing is that low, high roundhouse kick combination, and they might expect us to try and land that second combination, and then they might expect that to be it. So after that second one, they might move in to use their counterattack, because usually the best time to attack your opponent is when they're recovering from their own techniques. So we're going to use those 2 techniques and then land real quick with our foot pivoted. That way we can turn, and they might be running right into our leg for this back kick. So we're going to throw 1, 2 to divert our opponent's focus, and then follow up with that 3 as quickly as we can. So that was our 5 quick kicking combinations that you can use in sparring. I encourage you to practice these, to make up your own from this. The possibilities are endless, but the point is to practice combinations in general. You can't just practice all these kicks individually and expect them to gel together just fine when you use them in sparring. You have to practice them in succession if you want to be successful with them. But if you do have a bag or something you can kick, I encourage you to do so. It's a lot of fun. It's a good way to get a quick workout or to get some frustrations out. But even if you don't have anything, you can definitely practice in the air. You can kick that all day. It's never going to kick back. But the important thing is to get out and do something. Thank you guys for watching, and keep training.